So I'm just going to jump up to the top of my stack here. I'm going to select all, Control-Shift-C to copy everything in below, and Control-V to paste a copy of that there. That way we don't ruin any of our original images here. We've just got a copy that we're working with on the top. And I'm going to throw a color balance modifier into my stack. Again, I'm going to create a clipping mask. So it'll only affect that new copy, that new layer we made there. Now to do color balance using your color balance modifier, you're going to have to go through bit by bit. Say you want to pull up more green. Maybe pull in a bit more of the purple. You need to pull down on the blue or pull up on the blue. Let's pull down on the blue. Remember, you've got three sections here. You've got mid-tone, shadows and highlights. You should be working in all three. Now I'm making this extreme just to give you guys an example of what a similar thing that I'm going to be doing in Magic Bullet looks through a filter. So we have our color correction here where we've added more blue to our image. Again, I'm going to Control-A, Control-Shift-C and Control-V, paste a copy of that. So if I turn off that adjustment, and that's the original, that's the color adjusted version. What I would then do is I'd go back to the original, I'd make another copy, Control-A, C and V, paste the copy above the first one, the first color correction we did. So we're back to our original image. Again, I would then throw on another color balance. Again, I'd make sure I do a clipping mask. And now I'm thinking, well, we did blue balance last time, let's do a red balance this time. So I'm going to pull up on the red, pull in a bit more on the magenta, and pull up a bit more on the yellow. Now I'm going to go into my shadows and do the same thing. A bit more on the red, a bit more on the magenta, not too much, because if you go too extreme, you're really going to start affecting your image badly. Subtle, little bits, and pull up on the yellow. I'm going to jump down to highlights. I'm going to do the same thing. Pull up on the red, pull up on the magenta, and pull up on the yellow. So again, now we've got another variation. Look, and just to keep myself organized here, I'm just going to call this one blue. Now we're going to select all, Control-Shift-C and V to paste a copy. It pasted it underneath, and that's why it looks that way. Move it above. Turn those two off. I'm going to call this one red. Actually, what did it do? Okay, so again, that's our original there that you see. That's our blue copy. That's our red copy, which is a bit too red. I went a bit extreme, but I'm trying to make a point. What you'd then do is you'd probably throw down a yellow, green, sorry, more of a green tint. So let's just delete these because we don't need these now. We've got our blue copy and our red copy, so I'm going to remove these ones that we don't need. So again, it's getting a bit confusing. I just want to recap. That's our original image. We did color correction and made a more bluish version of that. Then we did color correction again and we made more of a red version of that. Now to do the color correction on the entire image, we're going to start playing with the opacity here. So I'm going to turn off my red and just work with my blue. And remember, underneath of our blue, we have our original. So if you go to your opacity and start pulling it back, that's none, that's all. You start just pulling back on that blue until you get a nice mix between the blue and the original. Then we turn our red on and we do the same thing again. We start pulling back on the opacity until we get a nice mix between the red, the blue and our original. So if I now, that's our our combined color correction. If I turn those off, you see what our original image looked like, and if I turn them back on, you see what our color corrected version looks like. Now that's one way to do it, and that's a very valid way to do it. It's a lot more fiddly. You're really going to have to play with those adjustments carefully, because they can make it a dramatic impact on the look of the image. So you've really got to be careful when you're making those adjustments. But that is one way you can do it, and that's a valid way to do a color adjustment. We're not going to be doing it that way. We're going to be doing it another way. So let's do it the other way that I want to do it, that I generally do it, and I do it through using a filter. So I'm just going to delete these two copies. There'll be a bigger difference when I use the filter though. So we're back to our original image here, okay? Back to that depth of field version with the color corrected sections of the different parts of the model, like the tree leaves and the flowers and that type of thing. Now we're going to do an overall color correction on the entire image. We're going to start the same way. I'm going to throw down a folder because I like to keep everything neat. I'm just going to call this one color correction. I'm going to select all, Control-Shift-C to make a copy of everything and below, and Control-V to paste. Make sure it's in my my folder there. And I'm going to paste down 4 more copies. So we've got 4 versions of the same image basically, which is our original depth of field, individual parts of the model color corrected. 4 copies of the same thing. The bottom copy is going to be our original, so we can do a comparison after we've done our color correction. And I'm going to be color correcting these 3 upper layers. Let's start with the one directly above the original. Turn that on. Now I'm going to be using a filter called Looks, made by a company called Magic Bullet. I'm just going to open that up and just talk you through what this filter actually does. You know, this filter comes with a whole heap of different color correction options that were created by the company that made the filter, the plugin I should say. So we have our basic here, which is our original. We can add a cool filter, we can add a shadow lift filter, we can add a warm filter, a vibrant filter, a sharpen filter, all of these different types of filters. This is an action filter. That they came up with these names, not me. They call this Bistrosity. This one's called Blockbuster. But you see the different filters it applies automatically to your image. This one's called Buffalo. Basically what it's doing is it's simulating a real world camera. You see down here, hopefully you can see it, yeah? There's a little camera icon. So you have things like diffusion, crush, contrast, saturation adjustments you can make, curves adjustments, auto shoulder, and it's all based on a real world camera. So you can add new things to that through their tools menu here. So if I wanted to change the exposure, I drag the exposure out maybe to my lens here, and then I could adjust the exposure on the image based on real world. It's behaving like a real world camera would. And that's based on these different things that you can add, effects you can add, like swing, tilt, and lens distortion, all of that type of thing. So the plugin is really useful to simulate a camera, a real world camera, and to do color correction, and that's the reason I use it. It is a separate plugin you would have to purchase. The bad news, guys, is you can't buy it anymore. For some reason, the company that made this decided that they weren't going to release it for newer versions of Photoshop. So you can't buy it anymore. You can't, not in Photoshop. You can still buy it, but you can only use it in After Effects or Adobe Premiere or Sony Vegas, any motion software that does video. They discontinued it for Photoshop. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. They didn't want to make the change to HTML5. The underlying code behind this, I think, is Flash. And Adobe decided that everything for the new versions of the CC versions of their software in Photoshop, you had to use they had to use HTML5, and I don't think that Magic Bullet wanted to update this plugin. I don't know why. They should have. It's really useful. A lot of design studios still use it, and that's why I still use it. They updated it for After Effects, Premiere, Sony Vegas, but they didn't update it for Photoshop. So it's no longer, you can no longer buy it for Photoshop or use it in Photoshop unless you owned a license prior, which I did. So unfortunately, I do use it. I'm going to show it to you. That's why I showed you prior to me doing this how I do it if you didn't have the plugin. There's probably other plugins around that'll do a similar thing apart from this though. I'm sure if you look online, there have to be. I can't believe that no one would have created a plugin similar to this, particularly now that this company don't make this one anymore. So yeah, you can't unfortunately use this in Photoshop anymore. You can still use it exactly the same that you see me using here if you use After Effects or Adobe Premiere or Sony Vegas. Any motion video program, video editing program, it's still available for that, just not Photoshop. But like I said, I'm sure you can probably find something similar made by another company. Actually, I think Google makes some free ones. Yeah, that's why I showed you the other way, Sniper Echo, because I knew that you wouldn't be able to copy what I'm going to be showing you here. But the other way I showed you, you're going to achieve the same result. It's just going to be a bit more fiddly, that's all. Take a bit longer. And again, though, I come from a studio background where they don't want me to take the time. If I can speed up my workflow, then that's what they want. So that's why I use this. But the other way is you can achieve the same result the other way I showed you just before, just by using the channel adjustments and combining them. And I'll be combining them a similar way with the opacity, even when I use this. All I'm using this for is to get an overall color look, and then I'm going to be combining them like I showed you by adjusting that opacity slider between the different layers. That's why I created 4 layers. So 3/4 is the same as far as adjustments of the opacity go. It's just the initial changes in color that I'm using this filter for, as opposed to using the channel mixer and doing it by hand. As I was saying though, I think Google make a set of free filters for Photoshop. I think it's called Nix, N-I-X. It's free. I do have it installed. I haven't looked at it very much though. You may find something in there that can do a similar thing as well. So yeah, check out Google Photo Filters. Maybe if you do a search for Google and then Photo Filters, it's actually made by Google. The filters themselves, well, actually I think they're made by a company that Google purchased that used to do photo filters. And you can install those into Photoshop. I'm sure they'll be useful for some of your color correction stuff as well. But yeah, I just wanted to show you the previous way before I jumped into this program and started using it, because unfortunately, like I say, you can't buy this software anymore, but you can still use it and use it. And the program is exactly the same if you use it in After Effects or Adobe Premiere or Sony Vegas. What you see me doing here will be exactly the same in those programs, and you can still get it for those programs. You just can't get it for Photoshop anymore. I know that the company put out a statement. They said the reason they didn't release this for Photoshop is because it's limited to using 4K images. Like you can't pull in an image that's bigger than 4K. And they say that using video editing software at the moment, you really can't work on video footage that's higher than 4K. But unfortunately in Photoshop, as you guys know, you can work with images that are 32K and bigger. And they didn't want people to think they could use this software on those really large images. That's their excuse anyway, for discontinuing the software in Photoshop. And the reason that they kept it going in Premiere and After Effects and Sony Vegas is, to their reasoning, is that people won't be working in video footage bigger than 4K anyway. And that's the limit of the software at the moment. It's something to do with the programming, it uses a GPU to do the correction. Anyway, it is useful. You can still use it in After Effects and Photoshop. It has a lot of settings that you can change to create the exact look that you're looking for. We're not going to be doing that. I'm going to be using some that I've already created. I did just want to go through and show you what the different settings are and the different looks that people created for the software. It really can quite dramatically change an image. As you can see. And it's good because it does it automatically and I don't have to fiddle around with color correction in Photoshop. But if that's your only option, then by all means, that's a very valid way to do it. Just before we start doing our color correction here on our image, I think I may take a quick break and grab a fresh cup of coffee. When we come back, we can jump straight into working on our final color correction for these images. It'll even do black and white for you, which is quite a nice touch. I'm just looking for the to go back to normal here before I jump to take my break. Basic, okay. So back to our original image. I will take a quick break just for a few minutes, guys, while I grab a fresh cup of coffee. I'll be back in a few minutes and then we will finish doing the color correction on these images. It shouldn't take very long because I'm using a plugin. I don't have to fiddle with color correction sliders, so we'll tackle that straight after I have my break. I'll just be gone for a few minutes while I make a fresh coffee, and I'll be back in a couple of minutes, guys. Okay. So let's start doing our color correction here on this image. Now you'll be pleased to know that I've already come up with a filter that I want to use, or 3 filters actually I want to use. I've just named them My Garden Terrace. I'm going to be using what they call Pocket Sign Hero, Surat, Renoir, and then I'm going to do a vignette. And a vignette, just for anyone that doesn't know, is just simulating a real-world camera by darkening up the corners of your image. It'll just make the image look more natural and look like it's been taken by a camera. It just improves the overall look of the image, and all it's doing, a vignette is doing, is slightly darkening up the very corners of your image. But let's start with the let's start with Renoir. So you see how Renoir has changed the look of that image? I'm just going to go finish. I'll wait for the program to work out what's going on and apply those changes to our original. So we have our original and then our Renoir on top of it. They call it Renoir, I don't. I'm just going to name them so I don't get confused as to what's going on. Now we're going to jump into our next original copy here and jump back into that filter again. That's the collection by Google. It's called NIK collection. It's really useful. It has a lot of filters in it and it's free. So search for NIK collection, Google, and you'll find a link to download it that way. Install it in Photoshop. It installs in all versions of Photoshop. And you'll have access to these filters, and some of these filters are really useful. I won't go in today into what the different filters here do, but download the program, go to their website, check it out, read up on what it does. It's free, so if you use Photoshop, by all means, download it and use it. It's really useful, really good, and it's free. So NIK collection is what it's called. Okay. But we're going to jump back into looks here. Now the next one we're going to be moving along to is going to be Surat. Again, I'm going to go finish. Wait for it to apply to our image here. I'm just going to rename it Surat. And now we're going to go back to our original image again and go into that filter one more time. And this time we're going to be using what they call Pocket Sign Hero. Basically it's going to throw more blue into the image. It's a similar thing we did with the all of these are a similar thing that we did with the color adjustment. Just going to go finish. Again, wait for it to apply. So that's the pocket sign. I was going to rename it. I don't know who came up with these names, but pocket sign, I've got no idea why they call it that. That's our original, that's the pocket sign. That's our original, that's the Surat. That's our original, that's the Renoir. We're going to start with the Renoir and leave it at 100% opacity. I'm going to turn on the Surat and I'm going to start pulling back the opacity on Surat. Until I get to around about 50%. I'm going to turn on this pocket sign hero and we're going to start pulling back on that. Until I get to about 30%. I'm just going to turn them off one by one and turn them on to show you what it's doing. We put Surat on to lighten it up a bit, have a bit more glow happening on the angel. Then we put pocket sign on to bring in a bit more blue. So I'm just going to call this original. What I'm going to do now is select all with Control A, Control Shift C to copy everything in below, and Control V to paste. I'm going to turn off our corrections here. Pardon me. I'm going to jump here between our corrected and our original. So that's our original, that's our color corrected. Let's just get a bit bigger here. So the original image rendered from view, straight from view, with some of our individual correction we did to some plants. And our color corrected version. You see the difference it can make to an image? By all means, while that does look like a pretty image, you know, the render's okay. Like I said, in a studio environment, they're never going to send that out like that. They're always going to do color correction on it and they're going to send it out like that. Okay, there's one more thing we need to do now that we've got our corrected copy here, and that's jump back into that filter and do a vignette. Now you don't have to use a filter to do a vignette. Again, you could just paint them in using a really with a lot of opacity on a really large brush. You can paint in the corners and do it that way. But I have it here already, so I use vignette on everything, so I have one created. I'm just going to use that, and you see what it's done. I'll turn vignette on and off, but you see, if you look up in that top corner, it's probably the better idea as to what it's doing. If I turn it off and on, that's actually, you can adjust how much of the vignette you have. Pay no attention to the yellow line. But the image itself, it's just darkening up the corners. Okay? And that's vignette, and that's simulating a real world camera. So I'm going to go finished on that. Wait again for it to apply that effect. And there we have our vignette. So our original image and our color corrected image. Original, corrected. I think what it might be better for me to do here is to actually I'll do the correction on all the images, then I'm going to load in 2 images at a time, put them side by side so you can see the difference between them. Either that or I'll jump into my desktop and we'll do it that way. But I just did want to point out the difference that doing color correction can make on your render and how important it is. Okay, so original, color corrected. Original and color corrected. And it's just me, but I think the color corrected version looks nicer. So we've got our color corrected first camera done here. Let's do an export. I'm going to save it to my desktop. This is just for me, for the desktop, so that I can show you guys the difference between the original and the corrected version. I won't be saving out as like this for my final image. When I put it online, I'll be doing it. I'll be saving it out probably as Targa, but JPEG is good enough for what we need right now, just to show you the difference. So I'm going to save it to my desktop. And let's jump into this image here now. We're going to be doing the same thing. So again, I'm going to start with a folder. Again, I just put a folder here to keep myself organized. Again, like I say to you guys, good housekeeping. Color correction. So again, I'm going to Control A, Control Shift C and Control V, and I'm going to do that 4 times. I'm going to call this one original. And again, we're going to jump back into our filter. Yeah, there is a big difference, and I think it makes the image look much more more alive, more rich, doing the color correction. You're going to find that with every image. After you do color correction, it's always going to be a nicer looking image than you're going to get straight from a raw render. And that's why studios do it, because they want to present the nicest possible image to their client that they can. And as an artist, you want to be striving to present the nicest quality artwork and pictures that you can create. So always do color correction, particularly if you're doing it on renders. So we're going to start with our Renoir. Again, my housekeeping, I'm going to make sure I name these. Go back to our original and do another filter. Now we're going to be doing Chirat. Again, that's the advantage of using this program for me, because I can make sure that all my images are using exactly the same color correction settings. If you do your color correction through your color balance here, and you put it in your stack, you can copy that between your images as well. So you can get the same look the same way, just a few more steps having to copy the adjustment layer in between all the images you're doing. So certainly you can copy your adjustment layer. You don't have to redo a color correction on every image individually. Just copy it from the first one on your other images. So this is a Chirat. And we'll go back up to our original image and do the picket sign, what are they calling it? Picket sign. Now I know that looks really heavy in blue, but remember we're pulling that opacity all the way back down to about 30%. So, and that's the same thing you do with the color adjustment. You'd make one really blue, one really red, one really green, and then you'd adjust it using your opacity sliders till you got the look that you were going for. Pocket sign. Alright, let's turn them off and work on them one by one. We start with our Renoir, turn on the Chirat and pull it back. Hey big poodler, how do you join stream to a community? If you go into your dashboard, so if you're a streamer, you're a Twitch streamer, and you go into your dashboard, and underneath of or maybe above creative, if you're streaming to creative or wherever you put your game in, above that it says communities. If you type whatever community you think you might be good for into there, it'll bring up a list and you can choose the community that you want to stream to. So in your dashboard, basically. So I think it's the very first page of your dashboard. If you look in there, you'll see communities, and you type the community name in there. And that's how you stream and join a community. Thanks for popping in the chat. So we've pulled back our Chirat here to about 50%. Let's turn on our blue layer here, and again we're going to pull that right back. You're no problem, Big Poodler. Glad I could help. Yeah, I know. And Twitch community feature is a bit of it's a beta feature at the moment, so I'm sure that when Twitch are more comfortable with releasing it, they'll start putting out more information for people. But yeah, it's not listed anywhere as to where you actually do that. I agree. Yeah. Dashboard, no, first page of your dashboard. You should find it. There is no 3D modeling community though. Don't get me started on communities. The guys watching will tell you what it was like on Monday. I'm all for Twitch updating the service and making it better, and communities feature is a great feature. I don't know why they didn't create a 3D modeling community though. I mean, yeah, the community, the categories that are by default on Twitch under creative are a bit limiting, I think, and there's no 3D modeling, so go figure. At the moment you see me streaming under ArtStation. I'm not really happy about that. Personally, I don't really feel that my stream belongs in ArtStation, but we'll see how we go, whether Twitch add more categories. If not, I may have to add one myself. I know that's what Twitch want people to do. Next week though, guys, when I stream for doing the Unreal Engine 4 stuff, I'm probably going to be streaming under games development. Even though I'm not officially making a game, I'm working in a game engine, so I'll be under games development. So if you're a regular watcher of mine and you're not sure how to find me, I'll be under games development next week. Do remember though, you can follow my Twitch channel and that'll give you a reminder as to when I'm live and where I am, if you're not sure, until Twitch organised the communities a bit, the function sorted out a bit better. So please do feel free to follow my Twitch channel and you'll be notified when I am live. You can also follow my Twitter page at BillDoes3D to find out. Big Poodler says he's done a bit of Cinema 4D, but that's all his 3D experience. Well, that's cool. My stream is for everybody that's interested in doing 3D, regardless of what program you're using. I use 3D Studio Max, but Sniper Echo and Chat there uses Blender. I'm streaming on Twitch here to show you my workflow, show you stuff that I create, but also to help you guys as much as I can that are interested in doing 3D or getting into doing 3D. So I'm happy to help anybody with any questions that they may have or any problems they may have. If I can answer the question, I'm happy to. I don't know everything, but if I can help, I'm happy to help. And Big Poodler's asking me, he's going to start his stream. He dropped me a follow. Oh, thank you, Big Poodler, for the follow. That's very nice of you. Thank you. I do appreciate it. The music overlay is one that I created, because that robot in the corner there is my logo. And I'm just using Snaz to do the bars to capture the title of the song, and I'm actually using, it's not Snaz, what is it? What is it called? Not sure what the name of the program is now, the player program. Oh, FooBar 2000. So I created the overlay. That you see down there. That's my logo. Those bars are being captured in OBS from FooBar 2000, and the song names are being put on stream using Snaz, S-N-A-Z. And yeah, so thank you again for the follow, Big Poodler. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate every time you guys follow me on Twitch. It's great. And like I said, if you're confused as to where I'm going to be because of the new communities feature, until Twitch worked that out, follow my Twitch channel and you'll be notified when I'm live and where I am. You mean the program running it and pulling the song into? Yeah, the program that's pulling the song name and stuff in is called Snaz, S-N-A-Z. That's the program that's showing you the music name and the artist name. So Snaz, S for Sam, N for Nelly, A for Apple, and Z for Zebra. It's a good program. It does a lot more than just pull in music names. It can do timers and all that sort of stuff for you as well. So if you're a streamer, a Twitch streamer, or any sort of streamer, any service, whether it's Beam or YouTube or anything, it's a really handy program to have. And for my chat, I use Chatty. because I don't have my stream open while I'm streaming. Because I have crappy internet in this country and I don't want to risk having my stream degrade for you guys. No problem, Big Poodler. Thanks for popping in. Okay, so where are we? That's right. We've pulled back. I pulled back the opacity on Pocket Sign, which is the blue, to about 25%. So now we're going to turn them all. And I'm going to make another copy of our original. No, sorry, I did not want to do that. I want to make a copy, Control-Shift-C, of all of our adjustments and a Control-V to paste. I'm going to call this one corrected. I'm going to turn those off because we don't need them now that we've made a copy. So we have our original image and our color corrected image. So original, color corrected. Again, you can see the difference it makes to the final render. Really just helps to soften it up, make it look prettier. That's the whole point of doing it, is to make it pretty. But we do have to do a vignette, so let's do that now. And finish. So again, our original image and our final color corrected image. Hopefully this is illustrating just how important it is to you guys to do color correction on your renders. It really makes a big difference. You'll really improve the final render quality quite dramatically. Okay, let's move. Actually, before I do that, let's export this to my desktop. And move on to our next image. Again, I'm going to start by creating a folder. And we're going to Control A, Control C, and copy 4 versions into our thing. We're going to call it original at the bottom. And let's throw the first filter on the bottom layer. And that's going to be our Renoir. They're calling them Renoir, Surratt. The filters, they tried to name them all for famous artists, I think. Basically what these filters are doing, they're taking the color palette that Renoir in this instance used, and they created a filter based on the color palette of his painting. The same thing for Surratt. They have Monet, they have all the famous artists. They used all their color palettes to create filters. We're using Renoir, we're going to be using Surratt for this one. Just in case you were wondering why they were called Renoir, Surratt and all that type of thing. Again, I didn't name them. The people who made the program named them. So we're going to do a Surratt on this one. Yeah, I just thought you guys might be thinking, why are they called Renoir and Surratt and Monet? And, yeah. So Surratt. And the final one is Pocket Sign, I think they're calling it. But again, even with these filters, you see I don't use the filter straight as it is. I still blend them because I'm never going to get, I want the look that I exactly, you know, I'm looking for a specific look. You're never going to get that by using a pre-filter like I am, unless you start blending between them, which is what we're doing. Okay, so let's start with our Renoir. Turn on our Surratt and pull it back. Let's turn on our Pocket Sign. And pull it back. When you're doing these adjustments, I find it's easiest to start with none and start pulling it in than start with too much and start pulling it back. Either way will work. I just find it's easier to go to 0 and start pulling it up until I get the look that I like. Okay, so let's do a Control-A, Control-Shift-C and Control-V for our corrected layer. We can turn off our filtered copies now. And I've just got to do a vignette on this image. Okay, so this is our color corrected and this is our original. Color corrected, original, color corrected. Again, it just helps to lift the image up, pull out the color, just make for a prettier picture. Okay, let's move on to our next one here. Just let me, I thought so. Let me pop these into our folder. That's the whole reason we created it.